Last of Us Part 2. Let's dive into this sucker. Ben Reeves, what have you seen? What do you know? What have you played?
I played about 2 hours. I had 2 different demos. I got the impression the first one's like very near the beginning of the game, but not right at the beginning. And then like I have another section, like an hour or so I played that's very like combat heavy.
Okay, so we've seen the latest trailer that was revealed during State of Play. In that, it kind of shows a snowy area with Ellie and her, what I presume is her girlfriend. Then the trailer doesn't spoil things. It's very subtle. But Ellie sees something, screams no, and then seems to be sad afterwards. And
Goes into a rage.
Right. And
You
it's
hear a
kind of,
gunshot.
right. Hey, look, I don't want to say what happens.
Don't put 2 and 2 together.
But then she's like wandering the world a little bit. And then in the trailer runs into Joel. So you've kind of played those 2 slices then? That's the idea?
Yeah, I played, so like the stuff with the horse that you saw in the trailer, I played through a sequence that included that, and then I played a sequence that ended with where the trailer ended with Joel.
Okay, and did you have any sense of how far into the game that Joel section was?
They didn't say exactly. I mean, I think it's still early enough. It's like in the first half, if I had to guess.
Okay, sure.
Because it seems like the plot is still, progressing towards like Ellie getting revenge for this mysterious thing that happens.
Right. Which, by the way, I mean, we should just be upfront about this at this point. Like, it's interesting because I think even at E3, was it last year? Maybe, but I remember reading interviews with Neil Druckmann and Haley Groth, who's also a writer over there. And somebody asked them about like, oh, it seems like Ellie has a girlfriend. What do you think about like the concept of fridging overall in fiction? And they're like, well, just very much like, well, we'll have to wait and see. But I remember reading that and being like, okay, this girlfriend is clearly going to die, and that's going to be the catalyst to kind of propel Ellie to want to get revenge against this group, which then in the trailer is also interesting. Tommy comes back and also is addressing like, hey, this group might be more dangerous than you realize, Ellie. Be careful out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. The first part of what you said is like, it seems like her, I mean, they don't really refer to her as a girlfriend or anything. It seems like it's a romantic interest that's like building towards something.
Right.
And Ellie's definitely very interested.
Yeah.
But it does seem like she dies, and that's what sends Ellie off on this like spiral of rage. But I don't know why they're being secretive about it. It makes me think like, okay,
are they? They don't show a bullet going through her head, but I mean, if you watch that trailer, it seems very clear what's happening here.
Well, but when you ask them about like, is this what happens? They're like cagey about it.
Oh, is that
so
right?
It makes me wonder like, is there more to it than that? I don't know. So maybe there's more to it. I kind of hope there's more to it because it seems like, okay, it's a revenge story.
Right. Maybe.
Which isn't, could be a good revenge story.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, just overall impressions. You played the game. How is it?
It's good. Naughty Dog, they're like, we're going to make a good game.
Ah, the comeback story.
Yeah. Finally, people have been dogging us for years, but we're out of our shell now.
Yeah, underdog.
Yeah, that's right. It's, I don't know what I expected going in. Then I started playing, I'm like, oh, this is more Last of Us. And maybe it's just because they've been quiet for so long, whereas like I thought it'd be this big like reveal, and it's like, oh, it's crazy how different it is or something. But, and I don't mean this in a bad way.
Right.
It's more Last of Us, and that's a really, really good thing, because Last of Us was like one of the top 3 games of last generation, right?
Of course.
Ben, I have a question. Just set up the demo for us, like in broad terms. Were all the elements in place? Like, was crafting in this build? Were trophies unlocking as you were playing, or like, what was your experience like?
I didn't see trophies, but yeah, there was
playing poorly.
Yeah, ooh boy, yeah, I just failed constantly. They're like, usually people are able to finish this in an hour.
Yeah, we've had people platinum this demo.
What was weird though is during the reveal trailer, during that gunshot, they actually had a trophy pop up, and it's like, too bad.
Yeah, bummer.
Love lost.
Yeah, that's smelly for Ellie.
Just like my prom night. So,
Excuse me?
Yes.
Go on with your crafting explanation.
There is crafting in the game, so I got to like do some crafting.
Is it functionally identical to what it was in Last of Us?
It's very similar. So I was able to craft one new thing, which is like this landmine type bomb that you can plant in the ground, and then people will come and like step on it.
It sounds like a landmine.
Yeah, it's a landmine, turns out. But a lot of the elements from the first game are still there, so you can like, you have materials where you can craft a health pack, or you can craft a Molotov cocktail.
Okay.
And like the same materials for both of those, right?
Yeah.
So it's like
in the
Days
first
Gone, is what you're trying to tell me.
Just like they were very inspired by Days Gone.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I have a question, Reeves. Over here.
Yes. In the back.
Visually, were your socks knocked clean off, or was it like where they're kind of riding down and it's uncomfortable where your socks are?
I'm not wearing socks today.
Okay.
I'll just say that. It did look really good, especially the opening scene, which starts with the horse stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, this is a really good looking horse. And I just saw a really good looking horse last year with Red Dead, and I'm trying to compare it to that. And I'm like, do I think this looks better than Red Dead? Which is a hard comparison, but I think maybe I do think it's better. Like, the horse
interesting.
looked really good.
Yeah.
And like, you're walking through this this winter wonderland, let's say, and the snow looks great, and there's a storm you get caught up in. It's a really good looking game.
Huh. I'm really intrigued by the fact that they said that wasn't the very start of the game. I hope they do some little vignette again. They
have
the
to.
opening for The Last of Us is one of my favorite openings of all time, and it's silly not to go for something. I don't know what it could possibly be. Like
Yeah.
some sort of flashback, maybe even to like timeline of The Last of Us
Oh.
1.
What if it's a flash forward, though? Like, you see, like, the end of this game, and then you flash back and play through the game.
That'd be interesting. The alert comes on the screen. You're not allowed to capture gameplay during this section. Spoilers contained within.
Maybe we'll see that dance sequence we saw in that earlier trailer.
Could be.
Well, yeah, so the section I played, which felt tutorial heavy, so they were explaining how the game works.
Okay.
Maybe they like set that up just for this demo.
Right.
But they are talking and referencing things, the kiss basically that happened in that
Yeah.
E3
Yeah.
trailer. So that happens before the section I played.
Right.
So
right.
apparently there's at least that stuff that happens before what I played.
Okay, right on. Other big standout impressions, other than hey, it feels like a really great version of Last of Us.
It's a really great version of Last of Us. They added new enemies. So
Yeah.
there's like a new, it's not called a clicker, but it's a new, infected enemy that's it's kind of looks like the bloater characters,
Yeah.
like big and bloated.
Yeah.
And they like run up to you and explode with this acid mixture in the air. And so then it like lingers in the air and there's just this cloud of acid that hurts you if you stay in it.
And this is in the snow area or in the greener area later?
This was later in the greener area.
Okay.
So yeah, it starts off in Jacksonville, Wyoming, and that's where the snowy area is. And then the bad thing happens that sets Ellie off, and she travels out to Seattle to hunt down the people that did the bad thing.
Right.
And that was the second section I played, was in the Seattle area.
Okay. And that was a little bit more traditional with the original Last of Us, just kind of scavenging, going from car to car. The environment looks pretty similar to what we'd expect from some of the city areas in the Last of Us 1.
Yeah, it's very similar. It was a very long section of like me being hunted by enemies, human enemies this time, and the humans now have dogs with them, and so the dogs will like sniff you out, and if you go into your what do you call it, the sensing position, where you hold and listen to things, you can see the dogs following you and following your scent, so you can like see, oh, this is where my scent was, and the dog is like slowly catching up to me.
Oh, interesting.
So you kind of got to constantly be on the move
And
from
you-
these guys.
You got to stab a lot of dogs in this game?
I did stab a few dogs.
Ooh.
I also get a bow and arrow during that section, so I took out the guy who was with the dog, and like the guy fell over, and I'm like, good, I got that guy. And then the dog's like, and like pawing at the guy like his
Oh,
master, and I'm
no.
like, no, now I feel like a monster.
Do you think Ellie felt like a monster, or is Ellie just a cold, hard monster at this point herself?
She's no cold hearted.
Do you have any sense of like where she's at? Do you think she cares? This is a weird
Oh no,
question,
not
but-
at all. In fact, like there's when she goes to like do a stealth kill, there's a couple times where the camera pans around and you really see her face, and it's like filled with rage and anger.
Yeah.
And like it's somewhat chilling. You're like, who? What am I playing? And I think they're doing that intentionally. They're kind of like, the first game they say it was about a parent-child relationship and kind of like exploring love. This is what Neil Druckmann said. And then with this game, they want to explore rage and how that can maybe be similar to love. So I'm not quite sure exactly how that'll play out in the game, but
Well, I think we all understand that.
I think we all
inherently.
get it.
It's interesting though.
You
like,
are raging over your kids, right, Cork?
Constantly.
it's interesting, to think of if Ellie is starting in a place of pure rage, where she has room to grow, and so it seems like not obviously, but like the natural progression would be by the end of the game, she's in a much more
Acceptance?
or a peaceful state. I'd be curious to see how they evolve that, how Joel has an impact on her rage overall. Like, so Joel, did the demo cut like right where the trailer cuts, basically?
Yeah, that's basically the end of the demo.
Where Joel just says, "You think I'd let you do this on your own?"
Right. So he's back,
Hey.
everybody.
Yeah.
Or is he? Corky, you're saying that the internet still believes that he might
There's
be
some
a
people that
ghost.
still believe he might be a ghost.
Oh, that's interesting.
Was he a ghost in the build you played?
He looked kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi
Right, right.
in Empire Strikes Back. So
Little Slimer-esque.
I don't think so, yeah.
Okay.
yeah, very much like Slimer.
Eating hot dogs.
Yeah. You've probably talked about this a bunch, so I apologize if this is already ground that you've covered, but they didn't do us any favors with the name of this game, because now if you refer to the previous one, you have to call it the Last of Us or the First Last of Us. Neither one is optimal.
I don't like the T-Lu thing. Everybody says
T-Lu?
that.
Oh, the abbreviations. People say that out
People
loud?
say that. So people in Sony say that.
Oh.
No.
That's
Absolutely.
gross.
I know.
Yuck.
I agree.
So the theory is that maybe Joel's the one who dies at the beginning of the game, and that's why she's angry? Is that-
Oh,
is that the
I didn't even
theory?
connect to that.
That's the theory, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. So the weird part is like, I don't understand what their relationship is at this point. Like,
Yeah.
how does Ellie feel about Joel?
Right.
Does she care for him in the same way or the same level? Because I feel like she's a little aloof. At the end of the first game, she kind of knows what happened. Not without
She knows-
saying any spoilers. Like,
right.
I get the sense that she kind of knows, and maybe that's
He
gonna
ain't the best guy.
affect how she sees him, right?
Right.
So I don't
right.
know if she would. I mean, she might be upset if he
Mm-hmm.
got killed. I don't know if she would go into a huge rage
Mm-hmm.
over that.
I'm sure. I mean, in terms of like the people she's connected to in this world, I mean, who knows what she's been up to since the end of the first game, but he's still got to be top of that list, right?
Yeah.
Even if he is, nebulous.
Yeah. So what I think they're setting up is Ellie is going to have everything taken from her. Like, she grew up in this world that was crumbling, and so I don't think she had expectations to like have much of a life.
Yeah.
And now has that life, and she has opportunity to even have a romantic relationship and have things that she hasn't had before.
Yeah.
And then what I think they're going to do is take that away from her,
Uh-huh.
and then she's going to be like, "Oh, well, now I'm pissed off."
Right. More important question. The trailer opens. Is her love interest? Is it Gina? Is that her name?
I think it's Dina.
Dina. I'm sorry. Is she smoking a joint there? Is that what's going on there?
Yeah. That's part of the sequence I played, actually, is
Okay.
they find this stash of weed and smoke some weed. And it's
Interesting.
actually a pretty cute scene. Like, there's a lot of like dialogue heavy stuff in the beginning of the game with like
Yeah.
her interacting with Dina, and you're like, okay, I'm actually really growing to like these characters.
Yeah.
And especially Dina herself. And so it's like, oh, well, if she does die, I'm going to be kind of sad.
Yeah. So you got to do some interviews with Naughty Dog folks?
Yeah, I talked to Kurt, who's like one of the
Co-directors.
co-directors.
Yeah. He was the co-director of Lost Legacy as well. We interviewed him a fair amount of that cover story. And he goes
Yeah.
back a ways. Uncharted 2, I think. He kind of was a big set piece design guy.
Yeah,
Like,
he was on 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And I think he worked on Last of Us a little bit.
Yeah,
the
he
first
did,
one.
for sure.
So I'm like, wow, you've been around a long time, and I didn't realize how long you've
And
been
he
around.
said, yeah.
He's
yeah.
like, put his hands behind his head, and he's like, yeah.
Did you learn anything from him?
What did I learn? He just kind of like, nothing like super profound. I actually asked him about the end of the first game and what people feel about Joel at the end of the game based on his actions. And some people like see him as a bad guy. And I was like, oh, is that your guys' intention? Did you want to paint him as like a villain or something? And he's like, no, it's just about like exploring that relationship and what he lost everything at the
Yeah.
beginning of the game. And then like, what would you do if you had this choice? And
Right.
like, it was more exploring that. And I was like, I agree. I don't see Joel as a bad guy in the same sense that a lot of people do. He did a selfish thing.
Sure.
Let's say we're dancing around it.
A little bit. Dancing into it. Did you get any sense of the game's development? Did you learn anything about just the overall development? I saw online that according to a pre-order, it looks like it's going to be shipped on 2 discs. Did you talk to Kurt at all just about the challenges of developing this game?
Yeah, they said it was. I only had 20 minutes with them, so I didn't
Sure.
get to like dive in quite as hard as I would have liked. But they said it's the biggest game they've ever made.
Yeah.
Like out of any game, and also like length wise and just like ambition. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting because it feels like kind of the template was established in the first game, and so you're kind of following that template. And he's like, yeah, but there's still a lot of like things you got to adjust and figure out, like shivs, for example, which is a thing in the first game, and they had to debate like, do we bring those back, or is it a thing where like Ellie, we sort of established in the first game she has a knife and she doesn't need shivs.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it feels like we're taking something away from players or something. So Ellie has this ability to stealth kill people with her knife. And so it's just like, oh, things like that you're like, oh, well, how does that work then? Does that change our game? Does that change our mechanics and our like crafting system? And it does.
Yeah.
So how they like rejigger that?
Yeah.
And going from like Last of Us to Uncharted 4 and then Uncharted 4 to Lost Legacy, it certainly seems like they're embracing more open areas, more player choice. Did that carry forward in the sections you played? Did it seem bigger, wider?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like open world.
Right.
It's definitely like wide linear,
As they put it, yeah.
but it's very wide. Like the second section that was all combat was very open, and so and they encourage you to like run away from combat in certain points. Like if you like run in and like you get spotted and there's 5 guys after you, it's probably better to just run at that point and go hide. And the stealth allows for that pretty well. Like I was able to run, hide, kind of gather my belongings, and then take off people one by one unless I got caught again, which is
Right.
nice.
Yeah.
And the other thing they've changed is there's tall grass now, so you can hide in tall grass and you can go prone.
But Pokemon will jump out and attack
Pokemon
you.
will jump out and attack you. So yeah, it's all about collecting and becoming the very best.
Okay.
there ever
Did you get a
was.
sense that your horse is going to be a long-term presence in the game? Like in that second, more combat-oriented section, did you like hitch your horse somewhere and say like, I'll be back in a second, it's dangerous? Or was that horse just kind of isolated for that opening section?
I think it might just be that first section.
Okay.
Or maybe it'll come up again, but it'll be isolated sections because I didn't see the horse at all. That
Okay.
second section.
Or maybe Joel will just get on all fours and be like, climb aboard, Ellie.
Hey ho!
that seems plausible.
Yeah. What I was saying about the tall grass though is like you can hide in tall grass, but you're only invisible from a certain distance. Like they will eventually spot you.
Oh, okay.
It's not
That's
like
nice.
you're completely hidden.
And if you
Right.
throw a Molotov, can you burn the tall grass? Like,
Oh,
does
that's a good question.
Thank you.
I didn't try that.
That would have been
I
my
failed you. I'm sorry.
obsession.
Release date,
It's
February
True. Yep.
21st,
Yep.
Yeah.
2020.
That's pretty quick.
That's real good.
That's surprisingly quick.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, they've been heads down for a long time.
Yeah.
Like Uncharted 4 is 3 years ago, right? 4 years ago?
God, I think it was 2016. Yeah.
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 Right?
So, and they've been working on this exclusively. They've just been quiet for so long.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. God.
I saw somebody online tweet about like, okay, February's Last of Us, March is Final Fantasy,
Yep,
and then
and
April
Watch
is
Dogs.
and Watch Dogs, and then April is Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, oh, that's a really good lineup.
If nothing slips.
If nothing,
I could see
slips.
Cyberpunk slipping.
I could see a Cyberpunk slipping too. But we'll see.
It's interesting during the state of play, which overall I thought was pretty good. Got a Watam release date, December 2019. I'm looking forward to that game. If you remember that interview with Robin Haneke from Phenomena. But it's interesting that like at the end of the Last of Us presentation, they say, our thanks to Naughty Dog for giving us this brand new look at The Last of Us Part 2. It's weird to hear like a Sony created thing be like, thank you, by the way, Naughty Dog. It's like, yeah, you own Naughty Dog. It's fine. Like you never
How
hear
would you
that,
phrase
right?
that? You gave us what we demanded.
Well, no, you just don't phrase it at all. It's just weird, like to treat it like it is a separate entity.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting because they are owned, but I think Naughty Dog has a lot of pull
I think so.
because Neil Druckmann was talking about like, yeah, we're in this position where we can pretty much do whatever we want. Like if we didn't want to do Last of Us, we could have said like, Sony, we're going to do something else.
Did you interview Neil, or when did you hear this?
I was just hanging out with him. No, this was during like the opening presentation.
Oh, okay. Because what was the idea? You're like sitting in a big warehouse, and Neil Druckmann is up on a decrepit bus giving a speech.
Yeah.
Hang on, he's breaking.
This was at the beginning. There was a giant warehouse, and they had it decorated. So there was like a Rustin's Coffee, like facade, and
Yeah.
it had broken windows, and then they had like another area with like trees, and it said Last of Us 2. So it was a cool little decorated warehouse. And then,
Oh, okay.
Neil Druckmann got up in front and talked to everybody.
That was just a clip from a larger show called The Game Informer Show. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, or GameInformer.com. We take the fun opportunities and exclusive information from Game Informer magazine and boil it into a show that airs every Thursday with exclusive cover story information, developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So come love games with us.